There are records in football that feel permanent, untouchable, the kind of number you assume will simply outlive everyone currently watching the sport. The most goals ever scored by a single player in the history of the World Cup was one of those records, a number that had stood since 2014, set by a German striker built like a machine for exactly this purpose. Most people quietly assumed it would sit there for decades, maybe longer. On Monday night, in Dallas, 2 days before his 39th birthday, Lionel Messi knocked it over like it was nothing. 2 goals against Austria, one of the oldest individual records in this tournament's history, gone. So let's talk about exactly what happened, and why this might be the single most absurd entry in a career that has already produced more absurd entries than any career in the history of this sport. Here is the number: 18. Lionel Messi has now scored 18 goals across his World Cup career, moving 2 clear of Miroslav Klose, the Germany striker whose 16 goals had stood as the all-time men's record since 2014. To put that number in proper context, Brazil's Ronaldo sits third on the all-time list with 15. Gerd Müller and Kylian Mbappe are tied on 14. These are some of the greatest finishers this sport has ever produced, and Messi simply left every one of them behind, on a Monday afternoon, at an age when most professional footballers have already retired. But the way this actually happened is what makes it pure Messi, because for about half an hour, it genuinely looked like the record might have to wait. Argentina were awarded a penalty inside the opening 10 minutes of the match, the perfect storybook way to break a historic record. A spot kick, an entire stadium holding its breath, the greatest player of his generation stepping up from 12 yards to make history. He missed. A stuttered run-up, and the ball sailed wide of the right post, the record denied by his own foot. Messi admitted afterward that he was, in his own words, really angry about missing it. And then he did what he has done his entire career when something goes wrong. He turned the frustration into history anyway. In the 38th minute, Argentina built a flowing move through midfield. Thiago Almada cleverly let a low cross run straight through his legs without touching it, a perfectly disguised dummy. And there was Messi, arriving completely unmarked just inside the box, sweeping a first-time finish into the bottom corner. Klose's record, equaled and then beaten, in a single touch. The sea of Argentina shirts inside the stadium in Arlington, Texas, erupted. His name echoed around the ground. 4 decades after Diego Maradona first wore the number 10 for Argentina, the country's latest version of that shirt was writing his own chapter, in his own words, on his own terms. Then, deep into second-half stoppage time, with the match already decided, he added a second. A tight angle, firing through a cluster of Austrian defenders after the goalkeeper had pushed away his first attempt. 2-0, 18 goals. And fittingly, when asked about it afterward, Messi reflected that maybe, just maybe, if he had scored that early penalty, he would never have gotten the other 2 goals at all. Even his misses end up becoming part of the legend. Now let's zoom out, because the headline number, 18, does not even begin to capture how genuinely strange this entire achievement actually is. The truly mind-bending part is not the total, it is when he scored them. 12 of Messi's 18 World Cup goals have come after he turned 35 years old. 12. More than 2/3 of the most prolific World Cup scoring career in the history of this sport has happened during the exact years when professional footballers are supposed to be fading, slowing down, quietly winding toward retirement. He turned 39 the day after this match. He has an ailing father back home in Argentina, a private worry he has been carrying through this entire tournament. He plays his club football now in Major League Soccer, a league widely regarded as a level below the European elite, where he spent the vast majority of his career. And he is still, right now, the leading goal scorer at this entire World Cup. 5 goals in just 2 matches. Because do not forget how this tournament actually started for him. Argentina's opening match was a 3-0 win over Algeria. Messi scored all 3 goals. A hat-trick, the first of his entire World Cup career, and the 11th hat-trick of his international career overall. It arrived on his 200th appearance for the Argentine national team. And here is the detail that genuinely makes you stop and stare at it twice. That hat-trick against Algeria landed exactly 20 years to the day after his World Cup debut. June 16, 2006. An 18-year-old kid came off the bench and scored against Serbia and Montenegro in Germany. June 16, 2026. A 38-year-old legend scored 3 goals against Algeria in Kansas City. 2 decades, bookended to the exact day, by goals. That hat trick pulled him level with Klose. The double against Austria sent him past. 5 goals in 2 matches, at 38 years old. This is his 6th World Cup, itself a record. He is the first man in the history of this sport to play in 6 separate editions of this tournament. Monday's match against Austria was his 28th World Cup appearance, another record. Klose, by comparison, played in 24 World Cup matches across his entire career. And there is a particular, almost poetic cruelty in this for the German legend, because Klose's final act at a World Cup was winning the 2014 final against Messi's Argentina in extra time. Now, 12 years later, Messi has taken his scoring record as well. In an interview published before this very match, Klose himself said he expected his record to fall this tournament. He told a German newspaper that with a larger field of competing nations, there would naturally be more matches and more chances to score, and that Argentina and France would likely go far. He said the record-breaking eventually was perfectly fine, and that Messi was welcome to be the one who did it. He called Messi a genius, said he had always been a fan. Messi also joined an even rarer club on Monday night. By scoring against Austria, he became just the 3rd player in the entire history of the World Cup to score in 6 consecutive World Cup matches, joining France's Just Fontaine from 1958 and Brazil's Jairzinho from 1970. Names from the black and white era of this sport. And in 2026, Lionel Messi stands directly alongside them. His 18 goals also moved him past Marta, the Brazilian forward who holds the all-time Women's World Cup scoring record with 17 goals. For this moment in history, Messi is, without qualification, the leading World Cup goal scorer of all time. Full stop. Across both the men's and women's game, and the most frightening detail of all, for everyone chasing him, he is not done. Argentina have already secured their place in the round of 32 with this victory. They sit top of Group J with 6 points, on an 8-match unbeaten run at World Cups that stretches all the way back to their shocking opening defeat against Saudi Arabia at the 2022 tournament. That defeat, the one that humiliated them on the opening day in Qatar, was the start of the exact run that ended with them lifting the trophy. They still have a final group match against Jordan to come, and then an entire knockout stage stretching ahead of them. Every single match from here forward is another opportunity for Messi to push this record further out of reach, toward a number that might genuinely, permanently, never be caught by anyone. There is one man already positioned to try, eventually. Kylian Mbappe, only 27 years old, sits joint 4th on the all-time list with 14 World Cup goals, with presumably several more tournaments still ahead of his career. If anyone on the planet currently has both the time and the talent to one day chase down 18, it is him. But that is a problem for a future World Cup, years from now. Right now, today, the record belongs to Messi, and he keeps adding to it. So let's properly appreciate exactly what we are watching here, because we are not going to see this again. A player who scored his first World Cup goal as a teenager when most of the sport's current stars were still children. A player who failed to score a single goal across the entire 2010 World Cup. A player who carried his country to glory in 2022 with 7 goals, including 2 in that unforgettable final against France. And a player who is now, at nearly 39 years old, in what is almost certainly the final World Cup of his career, still, somehow, the best goal scorer this tournament has ever produced. He is not hanging on for nostalgia. He is not a ceremonial passenger being politely carried by younger legs around him. He has scored every single one of Argentina's goals at this World Cup so far. He is personally dragging the defending world champions through this tournament, breaking century-defining records along the way, 2 days before his 39th birthday. When asked afterward to sum up how the entire night had unfolded, the man who had just broken the biggest individual record in World Cup history used a single word: spectacular. So tell me what you think. Is 18 a number that ever genuinely gets beaten? Or is this finally the World Cup record that lasts forever, the way everyone once assumed Klose's would? And can Messi drag Argentina to back-to-back World Cup titles, one final time, before this story ends? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe to When Football Speaks if you want World Cup coverage that is there for every record, every goal, and every single moment of history this tournament still has left to give us. I will see you in the next one.